we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time. You don't have a choice. People act like you have a choice. For the world at large, normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.
Who are these people? Who is Bill Gates? How does he think he can vaccinate the whole world without asking people, using largely untested RNA vaccines, which turn human cells into factories of viral proteins and may lead to severe side effects, such as allergies, autoimmune diseases, and cancer? These are effectively banned genetic experiments on humans. It's eugenics on a global scale. In previous videos I argued that Bill Gates has difficult relationships with women, that he wants to control people, that he is driven by fear, and that often with bigger than life public figures, that the origin of such behavior is often family dynamic problems, even from generations ago, that family members are unaware of and so cannot solve them directly, and then instead attempt to solve blindly at a much larger scale. Mark Zuckerberg is another classic example of this phenomenon. Now, in the systemic psychoanalysis, the family system is considered as a whole, and in group therapy sessions, representatives are set up to feel and move according to such underlying dynamics, and solutions can be found. Here's a contribution from one of Franz Ruppert's sessions, who's a therapist with specialty in traumas. A woman in a session was extremely fearful of Bill Gates, who she confused with her father, who sexually abused her. Afterwards, the representative of Bill Gates provided notes from this constellation. The following statements are just the personal views and impressions of the representative of Bill Gates, and may not represent or match the real Bill Gates, but they may nevertheless be useful. They can be shared as long as it's done anonymously. As a representative of Bill Gates, I felt insecure and insufficient to fulfill my given tasks, which I was supposed to fulfill in public. I felt I was called to bigger things in this world and that I was supposed to accomplish a lot. I was not part of the common humans, but part of an elite few, whose members live in the background for generations to rule the world. My whole endeavor and goals are focused on becoming an equal among my ancestors and mentors, by proving that I can, like them, achieve great things in this world. My goal is to keep the humans small and controllable, to keep the self-proclaimed elites in power, to increase their influence in the world. However, this major task puts me in a dilemma. On the one hand, I don't have any special skills or talents. In fact, I cannot do anything really well. Nevertheless, I have huge financial support and uplift from my mentors. Computer software was mostly written by others. On the other hand, I do not have a good reference point to tell me at what level or order of magnitude my successes are satisfying my supporters and mentors to receive the acknowledgements and to achieve equal status, which I have been yearning to gain at all costs. I have dismissive feelings for the common inferior humans. These people are just to rule and play with. I always have to eavesdrop on them, to know where their level of understanding is in order to control them. Do they wake up? Do they recognize their situation of being manipulated and suppressed? If these common humans are constantly occupied with making a living, feel despair and dread, are in conflict, fight each other, or see no way out of their misery, then these are ideal conditions to manipulate and rule them. Under such dire conditions, these people are susceptible to my technological and medical aids as apparent solutions or a way out of their misery, Corona app, vaccines. That my solutions don't decrease their problems but in fact further enlarge them, no one is supposed to notice. This just helps my own goals, to gain the respect of the elite ruling class, my people. When I saw for a moment that people realize that, calm down and regain social and healing cohesion, I felt unrest and panic, and that their social structure and stability worsens my work conditions. In other words, I feared to lose control, and that these humans are not susceptible to my manipulative effects. That is, close social face-to-face contact with touching and hugging are dangerous adversaries of my goals. I immediately wanted to suppress these social physical contacts. The common people should instead be occupied with external issues, such as software updates, new operating systems, so that social cohesion, human warmth, and spirituality cannot persist. That would be dangerous for me. By the way, in my role of the representative of Bill Gates, I noticed something interesting. That the communication between humans face to face with physical contact is much richer in information content at multiple cognitive and emotional levels, including human swarm intelligence, than digital communication over social networks with thousands of recipients. When in the end my mother, that is Bill Gates' mother, entered the constellation, I felt like the 5 to 10-year-old Bill Gates, who was in fear of his approaching mother, so that I spontaneously decided to hide under a big rug. I screamed from my hiding place, "You were never there for me as my mother, and when you were there, it was dangerous and hurtful." The representative of Bill Gates' mother agreed to my assessment of the relationship. Furthermore, my mother openly admitted that she needed me, her son, for her own purposes. Instead of a relationship, she offered me luxurious support for my training and success in life, so that later she could be proud of me. I accepted her offer hesitantly, under the motto, "Better a mother with her own selfish goals than no mother at all."
So I had a sense that my mind was snappy on, simple addition type things.
And by 8th grade, you take this math test and you do best in the state.
Yeah.
And not just best in the state from 8th graders, you do best in the state from every 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. That's pretty mind-blowing. Which parent pushed you to be the best?
My mom. My mom was very engaged in all of our day-to-day activity. My dad was amazing as a role model, but the person who tried to get me excited about things, that was very dominated by my mom. This is my mom. This is actually some early medical stuff being displayed at this university that my mom must have been involved with somehow. She was very big in the social scene in the Seattle area.
She was on a lot of volunteer boards and did that kind of thing with United Way. And
that was my mom. Suit on, put together, briefcase, walking out the door to a meeting.
I think we always had the impression that she expected us to succeed, to be successful.
You talk about, those parents must be very proud their kid's doing that, or those parents must feel a little bad their kid's not doing that. She had a certain sense of values that were communicated to us in that kind of indirect way.
And she wanted our family to be a force.
My brother was happy to be locked in his room for hours, focusing on one thing or another.
When you're 10 and you're walking into his room, what do you see?
I see a mess. Total mess. Books all over the place. I think left to his own devices, he might have stayed in his room and read books all day long.
Just because he was so introverted, he was just thinking, pondering. My mom had a hard time getting him to do things. They had a really rocky relationship. She couldn't get to him.
My parents' authority seemed arbitrary. I really didn't want to follow their rules. I would not speak for days at a time. I felt like I was in some struggle.
Yeah, he's fierce. He is fierce. It's scary. I mean, he gets really frustrated.
It's got really bad with your mother, right?
Yeah, I definitely gave my mom a hard time not following along with what she wanted and really trying to detach myself.
And so how did you express that frustration?
Just disobedience, disrespect. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing to think about it now.
In an argument over dinner, Bill shouted at his mother in what he describes today as utter, totally sarcastic, smart-ass kid rudeness. In a rare burst of anger, Bill's dad threw a glass of water at Bill's face.
They actually went and got some counseling. They pretended that it was a whole family problem and we all went. But then it became clear that it was my mother and my brother.
I said to him, hey, I'm at war with my parents. I don't know if you can help me or not. And he said, well, it's not a very fair war. You're going to inflict more pain on them than they inflict on you. And they're really on your side. So, I had the wrong way of looking at things. It took him about 3 months to convince me of that, but it was brilliant.
I think it was sort of, at some point you got to let your mother have her way. That's just the way life is, and you got to let your mother have her way.
She was intentional about creating opportunities for him to be social. I mean, for example, when my dad would go to American Bar Association meetings, they would have him come and be a greeter or do something that forced that engagement.
Early on at Microsoft, my mom became sort of his right-hand person.
When he bought a house, making sure he actually had a house cleaner, helping him have a wardrobe when he was getting a photograph taken for some magazine.
She introduced him back into the community. She, got him involved in United Way. She was his guidepost.
What was the worst day in your life?
Like the day my mother died.